What is Lamine Yamal doing? Another beauty from the Catalan schoolboy. Officially, Juventus has introduced a new coach. The stunning transfer Inter Miami club will sign Cristiano Ronaldo for the duration of the Club World Championship. Are we finally going to see Messi and Chris together? We're discussing this and more today. Friends, this is a dose of football and a hot selection of the most interesting news to this hour. Charge your royal likes so we can work without weekends. 5,000 thumbs up today is a guarantee that we will see each other tomorrow. Well, I wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. Liverpool is planning to replace its legend with a Real Madrid player. Right now, there's a complicated situation with the contracts of the team leaders at the Merseyside club. Trent is already training to wear the Real Madrid emblem. Just yesterday, the first points of contention appeared with Mohamed Salah. But nothing is clear yet about the extension of his contract, as there are only 3 months left until the end of the season. The same applies to Virgil van Dijk, but the Dutchman is much closer to leaving than his Egyptian colleague, at least because he is not being offered the Golden Mountains. At the moment, the situation is such that if the parties do not come to a compromise in the remaining 3 months, Van Dijk will leave Liverpool. A replacement will need to be bought for Kauser. There is no other way. No top club in Europe can do without a man with such leadership qualities. You don't have to go far for examples. In Manchester City, it's Ruben Dias, in Arsenal, it's Gabriel, and of course, Harry Maguire in Manchester United. I can't even imagine what would happen to these teams without these mental monsters in defense. And who will boost the players if Virgil van Dijk leaves Liverpool? That's the question. That's why with Klopp we need to go to the transfer market and buy a psychologically strong player. As you already understand, one of the contenders for Van Dijk's role will be a player from Real Madrid. But it's not Antonio Rudiger, who one might think of. It's Raúl Asensio, whose name only the chosen ones knew at the beginning of the season. Turns out, Real's academy is quite a good place for nurturing top-notch players. Someone noticed that Slivovic has been playing without a second main centre-back for half a year now. No, because a young guy from La Fabrica came and instantly closed the gap in defense. And how did he perform? Asensio turned out to be unyielding, tough and self-confident as a central defender. Such a player would definitely not hurt Liverpool, only the management of the Reds doesn't even want to negotiate his transfer. The only option to get him is to activate the buyout clause. And it's worth 100 million euros. And somehow there's no feeling that Liverpool is ready to spend so much money on a new defender. Manchester City's most expensive footballer may move to Chelsea. A few years ago, the citizens bought a promising English winger from Aston Villa who made a noise in the local arena. But Jack Grealish's transfer to Man City can definitely be called a failure. He didn't play at the level everyone expected from him in Pep Guardiola's team. Yes, there was one decent season when he made about 20 goal actions. But such an achievement can hardly justify the purchase of a player for 120 million euros. It's evident that Guardiola no longer requires Grealish. This summer, Manchester City is expecting a reshuffle, and the Englishman is named one of the main candidates to leave. According to the source, Grealish may end up at Stamford Bridge. Last season, the London club stocked up on wingers, but they all failed. Jadon Sancho has 6 Premier League goal involvements, while Pedro Neto has 7. That's a low number. Naturally, Chelsea's management wants to see statistics from their footballers at the level of Rafinha or Salah, so the club will continue to sift through wingers until they find the right one. But it's a very strange idea to make Grealish the main winger. Either it's idiotic or it's genius. Although Chelsea's management itself is jumping from one extreme to another. But when the English media wrote about interest in Vinicius, now that news intrigued me more. The Brazilian is struggling to fit in at Real following Kylian Mbappe's transfer. And Chelsea has gone so far in its transfer policy that it can offer Real, which is on the decline, one of the best conditions on the market. Moreover, Vinicius' transfer will benefit everyone. The Slavs will get a lot of millions for a player who is not really needed in the current Real. Chelsea will finally get a decent left winger, and Vinicius will give his ego a boost. After all, he will no longer have to be in the shadow of his partner, and he will be allowed to do whatever he wants. In my opinion, when given the options to buy Grealish for 40 million or Vinicius for 20, the choice should be made to transfer the Brazilian, as we know that Chelsea has the money. The clubs were outraged by the updated format of the Club World Championship. Carlo Ancelotti even stated that Real Madrid will not participate in the tournament. Later, however, he changed his mind, denied his words, and claimed that it was all the journalists' fabrication, and he had nothing like that in mind. But at first, everyone was indeed shocked, as the tournament will impose a deadly schedule even without it. But after the prize fund was announced, no one wanted to miss the competition. The winner of the summer tournament can raise up to 145 million euros, which is more than for the entire season. In the Champions League, they tried very hard to convince the clubs. Indeed, with such prizes, the question arises as to what to spend the money earned in the Champions League on. Many might assume that the money ends up in the pockets of officials, especially since the reputation of Union of European Football Associations is so-so, as is International Federation of Association Football S. After all, what's the scandal with ex-presidents at Union of European Football Associations Michel Platini and International Federation of Association Football Sepp Blatter-Worth? They were accused of fraud, illegal appropriation of funds, crime, ineffective management, and also document forgery. However, they were ultimately acquitted, even though the Swiss prosecution and the right to appeal remained, but those who initiated the case got their way. Platini announced this: "I have restored my honor. The decade-long battle with International Federation of Association Football and some Swiss federal prosecutors is over. I know all this was to prevent me from becoming the International Federation of Association Football president. Time was important to my enemies. They got rid of me for 10 years. They don't even come to the appeal. They know perfectly well that they have won." Both Blatter and Platini cursed their successors and believe that Infantino and Schifrin are ruining football. It's interesting that Platini approved the Super League project. And who knows what modern football would be like if Michel had stayed at the helm of Union of European Football Associations in his time. Juventus officially introduced Igor Tudor as the head coach, leading the Turin team until the end of the season. Well, we'll see. Turin's sports director Cristian Agionto announced that Tudor will remain with the team through the end of the season and the Club World Championship. After the tournament, we will negotiate and discuss our future, which we hope to tie with him. If Gentolina is serious about hoping to tie the future with Tudor, then all that remains is to express condolences to the fans. Zebra. With all due respect, Igra is not up to the standards of a coach for a long-term project at a big club like Juventus. In the first 8 years of his coaching career, Tudor changed jobs 8 times. Igra never stayed anywhere for 2 years in 12 years. Initially, the team lacked potency in attack, with their offensive strategy limited to crosses into the penalty area from the wings. Horvat adapted his style over time by learning from his experiences. He stole personnel from Gasperini and Juric, borrowed a couple of ideas from Pirlo, in whose staff he worked, and retained a love for pressing and intrusive players. Tudor spent half of his career with 4 defenders, but recently he has been using 3. I think it will be the same at Juventus. Igor will make the players run around the field. Moto demanded the same, but Tudor's arrival will at least freshen up the team morally, and Ben Caneri will become more daring and lighter. Tudor, like Erik ten Hag, prefers asymmetrical flanks, overloading one and leaving Wenger isolated on the other. It's worth waiting for the return of the best Dusan Vlahovic. Tudor called the Serb the best forward of the A-series. From the 9th, the Croat will demand a classic game chasing the defenders back, and in this Vlahovic is oh so good. For such rivals, probably, Tudor will even free Dusan from the rough work. In possession, the forward will focus on opening, not on the leap. MOT left Tudor Juve with the second most powerful press in Series A. Horvat should be pleased, makes football simpler and more vertical, and gives the final bounce with the game. Turin should have no problem making it to the Champions League by the end of the season. Moreover, if we statistically evaluate the old Signora by the quality of the game, then the club should have been in the top 4 with Moto. Then why was Tudor invited? To improve reliability. But unlike Moto, Igor has no long-term prospects and never did. If he stays in Juventus for even a year or 2, honestly, it would be surprising. Juventus said goodbye to Thiago Moto in a terrible way. First, the dismissal itself is highly controversial and debatable. A storm of outrage has risen in social networks and newspapers. In essence, Juventus bosses removed Moto from the front line due to his own mistakes, which significantly complicated the coach's life, on whose shoulders the restructuring was laid. Last year, JUVI downsized the roster, should have been actively buying, and what, in the end? Sports director Cristiano Giuntoli kicked out more footballers than he took in. They had to start the season with a very short bench. The team crumbled after the injuries, as expected. And it's not entirely fair to say that the club splurged in the summer, Juventus didn't get better quality, just reshuffled the squad, no more. I'm not even talking about why Giuntoli brought multiplayers who don't fit the style of coach Nick Gonzalez, Randy Colomwani and Kefren Turama. All of them had to be trained and adapted. Therefore, the main culprit of the team's problems is sports director Giuntoli himself, and those who led the club into financial hardship. And it won't get easier, 20 million euros in compensation for the dismissed coach, plus the weight of lofty expectations. After the Bologna miracle, everyone expected the newcomer to instantly turn Juve into a powerhouse. The 4th or 5th place in Serie A, which Motta would have occupied, would have been more than adequate given the circumstances. We have what we have. As a coach, he has proven his capabilities, which is evident to Atalanta's owners. There's no need to worry about his future. As they write, they see in Motta a replacement for Gianpiero Gasperini, who is likely to leave Bergamo after this season. There are enough similar elements in the football of Thiago and Gianpiero. At the very least, one can expect that Atalanta will remain an aggressively pressing team. I think in the first season with Motta, the club is unlikely to show results at the current level, but then it can fight for trophies. Top clubs were not ready for João Félix. The Portuguese is so good that there is no specialist capable of assessing him properly. Neither in Atletico Madrid, nor in Chelsea, nor in Barcelona, nor again in Chelsea, nor in Milan. In Atletico, João complained about Diego Simeone. The attacking halfback said that the coach simply does not use him properly. Have you not found the best use for Félix yet? In Barcelona, he had a couple of brilliant matches, but fell apart in the long run, lost the competition in Chelsea, started brightly in Milan, and then disappeared again. It seems that Félix will never play at the highest level, and will remain one of those who are always hopeful. And the best refuge for such near-top championships, where you can purely rely on talent without going all out. To receive a huge salary as one of the main stars of the team and to remind about oneself in the Euro Cups. Félix risks following in the footsteps of the legendary Ricardo Quaresma. He also didn't shine in Barcelona, Chelsea or Associazione Calcio Milan, but only made highlights in Turkey. Fabrizio Romano reported that Chelsea is planning to sell João after he returns from Milan. Rossoneri will not keep him. It's not worth paying 45 million euros for Félix. According to Milan Post, the main contender for João became Galatasaray. Félix's agent is working on the deal. The great and terrible Jorge Mendes, the almighty middleman, creates real miracles, and Chelsea is probably happy about this. And only Mendes can persuade the Istanbulites to give at least 40 million euros for João. Transfermarkt, by the way, values João at 25 million. Personally, I expect nothing from Félix, who seems to make no effort to revive his fading career. If you don't count the attempts, the pathetic public statements, in general, the road is slippery. Trent Alexander-Arnold will leave Liverpool as a free agent. Sad news for Liverpool fans, but there is something positive in it. Trent's departure frees up resources to extend the contract with Mohamed Salah. The Egyptian edition writes that after Trent's future was determined, Liverpool became more actively engaged in negotiations with Salah and his agent Remy Abbas. The winger was given a more convincing offer than before, and significant progress has been made in the negotiations here. The information is confirmed by Ismail Mahmoud, a journalist who recently interviewed about Salah's future with Dian Lavren. Salah wants to stay in Liverpool. The question was only about a suitable contract that would show the importance of Mohamed and the club's confidence in his abilities. The Egyptian got it, so they will undoubtedly agree with Turner, and Wenger will keep rocking the VPL. It's a pity that the brilliant connection with Trent will be lost, but it's okay. I'm sure the management will think of who to replace the Englishman with. In addition to Salah, there is info about the extension of another legend, although not from Liverpool anymore. Antoine Griezmann is not going to Major League Soccer after all, and will continue to play for Atletico, as reported by Diario AS. Moreover, Griezmann is even willing to take a pay cut to stay at the club. The Frenchman is still in top form, a key player for the mattress makers, along with Juliano Lavarso, an absolute legend of the club, one of the best footballers in the history of Rojiblancos. and a unique option in terms of instrumentation, which would be useful to any trainer. But I think in the next season Griezmann's importance for Atletico will decrease. Age will start to tell, after which the Frenchman will finally move to the States. Vinicius calls for the Brazilian national team's head coach to take a break, not just out of emotion following a devastating loss to Argentina. The forward of Real Madrid, who has already felt the pain of failure at one World Championship, clearly does not want to repeat such an experience. After the match, he openly said that the team needs changes. Brazil is now facing one of its toughest times in recent years. Derval Jr. was originally a compromise figure, and his appointment did not cause enthusiasm among either fans or players. However, after a series of weak results, and now a humiliating defeat from Argentina, the pressure on the coach has sharply increased. Vinicius just voiced what many think. With this coach, the team will not be able to achieve great victories. His opinion is divisive within the Football Federation, who are considering appointing a new coach. Just yesterday, we discussed Ancelotti's candidacy, but other names are also being mentioned. Local media reports suggest that Jorge Jesus, Abel Ferreira, and Felipe Luis are shortlisted for the Brazilian national team. But the most interesting thing is the possible negotiations with Pep Guardiola. Of course, his arrival seems unlikely. Pep is still working on restructuring Manchester City. He is not with the Brazilian national team. Nevertheless, the fact that negotiations have begun with such a prominent coach suggests that Brazil is ready for radical steps. Currently, the situation remains uncertain. The final decision, according to sources, will only be made after the June matches against Ecuador and Paraguay. If the team shows poor performance again, Dorival will be shown the door, and another coach will be appointed to prepare the team for the World Championship. However, even now it's clear that Vinicius and other team leaders do not believe in this coach. And when trust is lost in the locker room, the path to success becomes practically impossible. All that remains is to await official decisions, but it's clear a serious upheaval is brewing in Brazil. In 2025, Inter Miami is going undefeated with 6 wins in a row and only 3 missed balls. And yet, 2 seasons ago, Zapoli finished last in their conference and didn't even qualify for the playoffs. However, Messi and the club's new transfer policy changed everything. Now Inter is stocking up on Argentinians to make Lionel more comfortable, and a necessary microclimate has been created in the locker room. Now, a quarter of all Argentinians in the league play for Inter. Miami is a city where about 60% of the population speaks Spanish, and in my opinion, even more. Yet, Inter hasn't taken anyone in. They wanted to see defender Gonzalo Lujano and halfback Baltazar Rodriguez in Europe. The guys are very talented and will likely relocate to Europe in a few years. But the best transfer was Tadio Alexander-Arnold, who started scoring a lot from the start and became one of the team's leaders. Before Messi's arrival, Major League Soccer was a surprisingly competitive league with minimal difference in team quality, but now Inter is head and shoulders above most competitors. As it turned out, Zapoliam doesn't even need Messi to win, and the team will probably become even stronger, as Cristiano Ronaldo himself might join it. Yes, you heard right. A well-known portal writes about this. Cristiano has not yet extended his contract with Al Nassr, but if insiders are to be believed, he will do so. So how then will he move to Miami? The thing is, Chris really wants to play in the updated Club World Championship. And for this, influential officials from Conecno, Chris, are rejoicing. As the tournament's popularity is set to skyrocket, and if he's also going to play on the same team with Messi, then everyone will be watching. Therefore, if the source is to be believed, Inter is planning to negotiate a short-term contract with Cristiano. Nothing serious, just a brief joint journey. At the new Sheikh's tournament, they are unlikely to be against Ronaldo. He'll shake the old, as he should remind himself. And that means the audience of the United States of America and other countries is interested in Crick's matches in Saudi Arabia. He will return after the Club World Championship and his Inter contract ends. Apparently, there are no losers in this situation. Inter, Ronaldo, Saudi Sheikhs, International Federation of Association Football. Everyone will be only happy if this transfer happens, and they will do everything possible for it. No one in the world would refuse such a show, together in one team with Ronaldo. Agree, you want to watch this, don't you? Barcelona and Osasuna didn't want to play the postponed match yesterday. And Rafinha from Barca, for example, just yesterday played against the Argentina national team. Naturally, he couldn't possibly play against Osasuna. The Pamplonians and Catalans attempted to postpone the game, but La Liga remained firm. Barca had to plan for playing without their Ballon d'Or contender. In the end, we saw something interesting. Zanti Flick dug up old Xavi concepts and put Gavi on the left flank of the attack. Ispan often moved to the center of the field and spun combinations there with Pedri Olma and Ferran Torroso. It looked first exquisite, second dangerous. The left flank retreated to Balde's cover, and surprisingly, an unexceptional defender emerged as the star of the attack. But above all, I'm thrilled for Ferran. The forward, on whom the fans dumped tons of dirt and demanded his sale, once again led a top match. It was he who opened the score, slamming a shot past Balde. The second goal for Barca was scored by Olma from a penalty. Dani himself earned the 11-meter and initially missed it. However, the player who scored after the keeper's save had entered the box before the shot, so the penalty was retaken. Lamine Yamal again showed a brilliant game in a rare football situation. Just 3 days ago, he played only 20 minutes for the Spanish national team. It's surprising that Lamine doesn't fly to Lazaret. Dani Olma recently regained form, but was sidelined for 2 weeks. The player is great, but the injury is awful. Considering the complexities, the purchase was risky at best. I warned about this last summer. Yes, Joan Laporta didn't watch those releases. In fact, with such a number of strong disciples, you can create any wildness in the market and still maintain style and quality. The guys from La Masia fight for the emblem to the last. In one episode, with a score of 3-0, Lamine lost the ball while fighting 2 opponents who then fouled him. But he immediately rushed to take the ball back. He did it and made the most beautiful pass to Pau Victor, who only had to beat the goalkeeper Jal, but Pau couldn't handle it. There was an assist in sight. No idea where Jamal gets the strength to bite into the ball like that, but as long as he plays with such a mood, he will only continue to progress. Well, I recommend watching the review of this snack of Podvigi, Torosa and Jamal on our telly. As always, I leave the link in the description and in the pinned comment. That's all for today. Thank you for watching and for subscribing to the channel. My name is Kirill Kast, and this was your daily dose of football. Peace to your house and Johanga friends.